being an artist and having researched the characters and the topics that I've been led to encounter over the course of my many, many projects and endeavors, I've naturally come across the educational milestone of coming to understand that over the course of all of history, all over the world, the arts are continually a battleground of territory, not just for individual ego and ambition, but also for very powerful religious interests, private wealth-driven interests, government interests, and organized criminal interests. To keep things digestible for the sake of a generalized introduction, I don't want to go into further classification of all the many different motives, but those seem to be the four big categories of this crescendoing battle of spy versus spy that plagues the life of the artist. No matter how successful you become. In fact, the more successful you become, the more powerful efforts you're going to attract in an attempt to fight for your vocation as territory. So you just have to find the joy and the sublime experience of expressing and distilling the human experience, or whatever your articulation of that artistic impetus is for yourself. Because we're always trapped and liberated by our wonderful peers in this thing called human society. So when I happen to notice that my career has been heavily and brutally infiltrated by spies and sabotaged over the years, I really want to avoid blaming individual people. I want to avoid saying, oh, it's just this organization doing this throughout all of history. It's not their environment that drove them to become this way. It's just isolated. Let's just like call them the villain and not blame anybody else and perpetuate this whole thing. You know, I'm just noticing in my many endeavors that there is a brutal sabotage attempt that seems to be directed towards, you know, me and my career over the course of many years. And if I say, oh, this artist particularly seemed to be leveraged at this moment, or at least leveraged so that I would notice it and then start talking about it so they could make me look like I had a fixation on this artist, you know, I want to refrain from it being like now I'm triangulated with this artist and attacking them, because I think this Black Ops is trying to set me up to specifically notice, oh, this person got leveraged at my expense, so now I'm going to start attacking them, which will only, you know, create like public sympathies, and then the Black Ops can just make me look totally delusional and incompetent, and then like use basically my victimization to like get good PR for this other person and then leverage them. And you know, and the artists in this, you know, they probably don't even know what's happening. You know I've probably had many different people throughout my life make clandestine efforts on my behalf to support me, or at least, you know, so, but I'm just observing, I really need to make it clear there can't be any brutal, you know, espionage happening to sabotage my career anymore. I've been getting it, you know, very disproportionately. So I've got to say that we're calling all my debts off, real or imagined karmic debts that I may have, because of the steep, you know, the steep iniquity of how I've been black opt over the years. You can't really trust any credible source right now is trying to say, oh, Joyce is just delusional. She really wasn't that, you know, set up for success in college. She's just bitter that she didn't get an agent when she graduated. I think there are people who were, you know, my colleagues and authority figures during my time in college that were collaborating with one of those four categories of surveillance efforts to sabotage my career in acting for various purposes that I can't fully grasp, because I just don't have the security clearance or the resources to research this with any integrity. So I don't want to spread conspiracies or misinformation, but this needs to be addressed as a very important discovery that I am making, and I just need to be, you know, very clear. This is a variable. This is just an unknown. I know this black ops is happening, but I do not want to disseminate a bunch of misinformation about how it works, who's involved, the motives locally versus in the bigger picture, short-term versus long-term. Because we know behind every psychopathic black ops are 10 more completely unexpected psychopathic black ops. And I am, you know, an artist, a worker, a citizen, trying to just undo the damage of the black ops towards me. I'm not a military, you know, engineer in human social engineering and hacking. I'm not, you know, a high-ranking KGB person who now works for Kroll or Black Cube. You know, I'm not like Checkers investigative firm, maybe, you know, trying to get its break by getting a big but shady client. You know, I don't know any of these things, and I don't want to disrespect the industry of, you know, multi-interest black ops activity. But, you know, I've got to say, this is happening. I'm noticing it. Just like you notice something on your skin that looks like, you know, you need to see a doctor. Maybe it's cancer. I've got to get it checked out. I have things happening that's pretty credibly indicating I'm the target of a black ops. And so I'm just saying, you know, I don't understand how this works. I'm not a black ops specialist, but we definitely need to get this checked out, you know. And again, it's not necessarily all the Church of Scientology. It's not necessarily all Black Cube and Kroll. It's not necessarily all Jill Kargman and Sophie Kargman, you know, maybe getting career incentive to work as an FBI informant in the arts. And, I throw their names out there in a kind of healthy sense of dissing them, but many other artists participated who won't be getting free publicity from me. So it's not just them. Now, I'm going to talk about something that annoys me a lot. And it just reiterates that the only solution is to just support my book, buy my book, ask for it in libraries, even if my book's not that good, supporting it and buying it will help me write future better books. And I sound like an asshole right now because I'm stressed, but I can cry in gratitude once my nervous system calms down for like what I do have and the many, many great things I have had in my life and the people I've had the honor of crossing paths with. But we're just talking about something stressful right now. I hope I don't seem like such an asshole. So it just drives home, like, any narratives trying to complicate just the mission of undoing the damage to my career just have to be kind of neutralized, because nobody can really be credible if there have been so many people involved in this over the years who have so much to lose. If they're now trying to paint me as delusional or somehow karmically deserving, not that I would ever think anybody here is petty enough to somehow mix up the concept of, you know, religious karma with like hurting someone and then saying, oh, that's your karma, like that, you know, confusing human revenge and human transgressions with like karma. So or like cause and effect of just two people like battling it out. I'm not the recipient of any karma, like regarding any kind of anyone's assessment on, you know, I don't deserve this happening to me. Even if I was a full loyal Scientologist at any point, I don't deserve it because I never participated in any spy activities, and I don't necessarily think that other people who have participated in spy activities towards me deserve to then in turn be equally tortured. I just want to unscrew my career from the total black ops that's happened. And again, you know, you don't know if everything is purely the Church of Scientology doing this, or if some exterior power broker is trying to do frame up jobs on specific people in order to leverage various pieces across strategic ground for their own interests. Because Scientology has such a rigid indoctrination structure, the people in it are much more subject to social engineering for a dedicated manipulator who is willing to study the doctrine and then use it to basically hack people. And I know that when I was in, you know, acting studies, some of my professors were actively using that principle to like neutralize my talents and ambitions and trajectory while simultaneously boosting other Scientologist acting students due to other, you know, interests that had nothing to do with Scientology. So I just need to, I can talk endlessly about the ways in which I was sabotaged, but the focus just needs to be on unsabotaging me and leveraging me and like unfucking my career. So I want to share one of many crazy stories, but one that particularly I find annoying. This was, I believe, the summer of 2016. I had some viral internet satirical essay action in that previous year. I was focused on finishing my book, Almost Rapist, a True Crime Memoir, which also needs foreign distribution and, you know, a good movie adaptation if there are agents who would be interested in helping to broker that. and I had published a satire essay on the topic of human sexuality in the context of Scientology doctrine. Now, many people satirizing religious concepts don't necessarily get persecuted by that religion in a clandestine spy operation. I technically don't know who's persecuting me in a clandestine spy operation. But many people write all kinds of satirical and academic material about religions, and those religions don't go out and persecute them, covertly or overtly. And then again, some do. So whether this is purely the Church of Scientology or multiple interests doing a frame-up job on me to try and get me to react as a form of sabotaging my career, and using me as a kind of useful idiot to spew ways in which I'm being harassed as a form of leveraging other artists on the currency of my statements while depriving me of professional opportunities by claiming I'm like difficult is, you know, we need to make sure that doesn't happen, because I think that's happened a number of times. A lot of this Black Ops, the pattern that it takes is to get me to kind of react like this useful idiot by abusing me in like a clandestine way, and then coordinating like a credible artist or professional to bring me onto a project, and having that environment very subtly gaslight me, very subtly sabotage me, but in a soft power, sophisticated, plausibly deniable way, while there's like a vicious, organized criminal style attack on me that's made to seem totally unrelated, so that this soft power career enhancing environment can try to like discredit me in some way, say, you know, try to falsely claim I was difficult about something that was really like a very engineered kind of staged interaction, you know, with someone on the project that never needed, you know, like just basically a smear campaign. I know Glory Cadigan tried it with Akia Scitieri and David Stallings to try to leverage Sean Pollock's Alex Timbers adaptation at 14th Street Y, because my roommates were spying on my Wi-Fi and they saw that I was going to submit my Scientology themed satire to that theater. I know, you know, a very powerful real estate mogul in New York hired an employer of mine to get me into a very controlled environment with no witnesses, where I was sabotaged with really subtle psychological warfare and completely fraudulent smear campaigns, while a seemingly unrelated, like, organized crime style attempt to injure me was coordinated with this weird highbrow harassment. And during the summer of 2016, you know, I'd been kind of riding on this year of I'd doubled down on finishing my book. I'd gotten some viral internet satire action with credible publications, and had done, you know, readings and a former colleague of mine on numerous projects who I worked with at Tisch, at Williamstown, at the Public, got in contact with me after I'd asked them about my short humor satire getting turned into a short film, and said, oh, you should submit to this Samantha B. Writer's Room mentorship because it's a program where you can get to kind of simulate what it's like to be in like a television writer's room, and then you get like, you know, meetings and career opportunities with, you know, people who can potentially hire you to work in a writer's room on a TV project or a streaming project. And that would be, you know, that would have been great because people are always trying to make me seem overly advantaged while ignoring my any hardships I may have, right? But then the minute they do that, then it's like, okay, now I've got to write you a long list of my hardships. So you basically just trolled me. So it's like, you can't win. But I needed this mentor project. It shouldn't have, I mean, I don't even know if it's need-based. I don't think a lot of television hiring is need-based, but if there is anything need-based, I'm not disqualified from that either. And I should not have to get, you know, black opt into like no career to have to prove that. We shouldn't have to wait till I'm like dying and homeless on the street in order to finally say, oh, I guess Joyce really did need that help. Oh, well, it's too late now. We're not doing that. So, I submitted, and then one Tuesday or Wednesday, I was in Philadelphia visiting some, like, maybe capturing some video footage and visiting my mom. And I was sitting in the 30th Street Station train station at the Cosi coffee shop. And a chunk of money, you know, enough to pay my rent that month had just hit my bank account. And so I was feeling the nervousness that comes with being wealthy because, you know, having my whole month's rent in my bank account on the 5th or 6th of the month at that time was a rare feeling for me. So I was gonna sign into my laptop and use my time at the coffee shop in the train station to be productive. And I had signed up for some free, you know, how to learn front-end web development Zoom meeting type of thing. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna sign up. I'm gonna log into my computer and do this like front-end web development thing. Just to, you know, use my brain and maximize my time and be productive. So I logged on to my laptop, and a woman comes up to me out of the well-populated train station, you know, the table of 4 business casually dressed people right next to me. She walks all the way to me and only me. And I was working on the computer, but I was too porous to other people's needs. So I was like, okay, you know, I was in the middle of a web seminar thing that I was doing, but you know, I stopped and I said, she said, can I look up a shelter I'm trying to get to on your computer? I had at that point been aware of numerous staged interactions where it's not just somebody asking in earnest for help, it's somebody like enlisted or hired to specifically come find me and ask me for help or something in a way that's staged, where I'm gonna either be looking like an asshole or screwing myself over. And it's like setting me up for a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Whereas other people have like a mafia style operation going for them where they're set up to do like the one nice thing they've ever done in their life with like all the cameras pointed to them. So just keep that in mind. I'm not talking harshly about people asking for help in general. I need to explain that this person was enlisted most likely to stalk me and stage a damning interaction designed to just destabilize my internal locus of control and ruin everything for me. So she said, like, can I look up a shelter I'm trying to get to on your computer? I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm getting like weird hacking right now because of some satire I published about the church. Do you want me to search it for you? And there were tons of other people in the train station with smartphones. There were 4 business casual people sitting at the next table. This person chose me. They probably got hired by, you know, they probably weren't even actually an unhoused person in need of help. They were probably like a PI or something, just hired to make me look like a douche. Or like the Church of Scientology fronting with radical activism. So I said, I can look it up for you on my computer. And I was very nice, not impatient in any way. I was like, I acted like, you know, this was my client and I was doing this. But all the time I was like, I know this person's hired to stalk me, yet I'm complying. This is terrible. What am I doing to myself? So I looked up the location and she said, oh, what time does it close? And I was like, oh, it looks like this. She's like, oh, shoot. Do you think you could give me $60 to take a cab so I can get there on time? I was like, and it's like, okay, why is this? I've never had anybody come ask me for $60 on the street like that. It's like they knew money had hit my bank account and they were trying to make me feel like every time whatever money I get has to be tithed to some random person trying to extort me on the street who I don't know, you know. So they're really trying to, this is not just sabotage, not just harassment, not just stalking. There's a real psychological warfare component to it to make me feel I'm just at the mercy of this all-encompassing organized criminal network who, anytime I get money, I'm gonna tithe them. Anytime I try to have a moment's peace, they're gonna repurpose my free time for their needs. So this was the psychological warfare component to really make me feel watched, make me feel like my bank accounts are owned by some unseen spy network. My time is owned. They know my schedule, you know, it's real psychological warfare. I mean, this could really qualify as torture. It could qualify as human trafficking. You know, this is like an international human rights issue that people are in possession of this level of surveillance and they are exercising it as such. So I said, I was like, I can't fork over, 60. I could buy you like, a meal from this cafe. I could buy, I was like, you want like one of these, sandwiches or salads or something, or a drink and maybe like some fruit. So I bought like a lunch and I gave it to her. But she was like, yeah, my husband knocked my teeth out. I'm trying to get to a shelter. Now this is kind of, please don't think I'm an asshole, but you've got to wonder. I grew up in Philly. Every day you go out and 5 people will hustle you on the street. And I just don't have the money to hand out like that. If I had garbage bags full of money, I would just, wouldn't be a problem, but I don't have that. And I also need to develop a mental locus of control over my finances, where I don't feel like, the moment money hits my pocket, it's going to slip away. I need to really like re-educate myself with a lot of toxic economic stuff. So if I'm going to give, I have to, think about it, or help or I have to make sure it's like in my budget, because I'm having people come up and try to target me with weird psychological warfare at all times when I'm like going out. So, and if it's not happening, I'm like having to wonder when it will happen again. So again, I need an injunction against all of this, and then I'll be able to get back into the natural resting human state of, just handing out kindness without having to worry that I'm getting extorted by some sort of organized criminal network linked to Scientology and like an international spy ring, So I think I trust people to have the empathy to understand that. So I was like, I don't know if those teeth got knocked out that day or 5 years ago. Either way, it's terrible, and who wouldn't be suffering the rest of their life? But I don't know if she was enlisted by a radical activist group designed to make me look bad in exchange for some kind of incentive from Scientology, or some kind of secret blacklist that I've been fraudulently placed upon to damage my reputation. Right? Like Scientology probably safe-pointed Orange is the New Black and The Handmaid's Tale, because both those shows have Scientology leads. And so you've got a lot of action happening with who works for who and what spies are getting what incentive. It's just a whole crazy Game of Thrones situation happening. Many, many mixed interests. And I'm not trying to put a target on the back of these two like really, really progressive television shows who gave a lot of opportunities to a lot of marginalized artists, except for me, of course, but we'll fix that. But, I'm just saying, it's interesting that there's this link to have somebody kind of stage an interaction with me to make me look like a douche, and then also add the feminist element of like, look, a woman not helping another woman. There's that special quote from Gloria Steinem, like there's a special, or somebody said it, like there's a special place in hell for women who don't help women. So it's clearly a setup to make me look like this total asshole not helping a woman who's telling me her husband knocked out her teeth. So I like notice somebody working at the cafe is like, they're on their phone, they look annoyed, and their phone is positioned as if they could be filming me, or I could just be feeling afraid that they are, because this moment just happened where I was like, I can't give you money. Here's a woman, saying fuck you to another woman who really needs help. So I was like, it seemed kind of like the person was trying to create at least paranoia that I was being watched and judged by some clandestine network of, you know, progressive women activists or something, right? So, at that moment, my computer like blinks out. I lose the web conference thing I'm having, right? And then the COSI employee is like, oh, we no longer have Wi-Fi today, sorry. It blinked out. So I turn on my computer and, you know, the web thing is ruined. My interaction with this woman is, you know, designed to make me look and feel like a douche, designed to instill a sense of learned helplessness that no matter what I do or where I go, I will be set up to lose everything, to look bad, to feel bad, to waste my time, to not get the opportunity to be the web seminar thing I'd planned to do. And, you know, what I could have done is gone to the table and say, hey, she's asking me for help. Do you all have any help for her? But I don't want to do that because maybe she didn't want to ask those people for various reasons. But there were many people at the train station. She only walked up to me. Now, that could be a compliment. It could imply that I seem like a nice person, but it also means if everybody's always walking up to me because I'm sitting alone and I'm a woman, then I'm not going to have any money. I'm going to be on the street too. So it doesn't need to be said any more times than it already has been, but I turned my computer back on and I check my email and I see that I have received a rejection from the Samantha Bee writer's room, the person who, you know, was friends with this director who told me to submit my material. And the email was like, yeah, we think you're funny, but we've decided on a different, you know, ensemble of people for this writer's mentorship. And it just immediately, I'm like, okay, the rejection email is like, it seems like they timed it to appear as if it's like a direct karmic result of not giving this woman the $60 that she asked for. And, you know, make me feel that I'm being watched by a massive surveillance apparatus that will punish me and rob me of opportunities if I don't give random people on the street money whenever they ask for it. Which is an insane, I mean, that is mind control, that's torture, that's stalking, harassment, that's a human rights violation. That's definitely violating some coercive control laws that exist in France that should definitely exist over here in the US as well. I mean, this is shattering moment for me. And I'm getting stalked and harassed covertly in that moment to absolutely shatter my locus of internal control, to make me feel completely futile, to make me feel like it's futile to write, like it's futile to submit projects, to make me feel like I have to give all my money to anyone who comes up to me and asks for it on the street, or else I'll be like punished, which that's extortion. That's definitely extortion as well. And furthermore, I'm thinking, how did they time this rejection email to happen right after this woman had this interaction with me? Because that would entail, is Winter Miller, I think there's a lot of people who have that name. I think this is the Winter Miller who worked for the Samantha Bee writer's room at one point. this is not the same Winter Miller who works for Electric Literature. This is a different Winter Miller. Common name. Anyway, I'm like, is Winter Miller sitting poised over the keyboard to send the rejection email exactly when this woman had that interaction with me? Because that seems like that would be really hard to pull off. That seems very inefficient. Like, Now, I also was like, okay, this could be coincidence, but at that point, so many repetitive synchronicity incidents had been totally set up to cause various fiascos that I knew it was not. And I've had a number of incidents where an interaction was staged with me to make me feel I'd somehow failed whatever behavior was expected of me. And then right after that, it was timed with some sort of rejection email or misfortune, to try to use psychological warfare to extort submission and compliance from me and destabilize my internal locus of control and make me feel like it's futile to write and futile to, act and audition, and basically wants to neutralize and destabilize me. So, like, I had it happen recently where a woman walked up to me in the Jefferson Library in Manhattan, appeared like so randomly with no apparent purpose. Once I signed on the Wi-Fi and my location was like trackable, pretended to drop something while she was carrying her baby in front of me. And when I didn't move my laptop and stuff that was all on my body to like lean over and pick up like the piece of paper that she pretended to drop, I received like my rejection email from the Public Theater Emerging Writers application like right after that, engineered to make me feel that because I didn't lean out from under my pile of books and laptop to like pick up the paper this woman dropped while she was carrying her baby, I got rejected from the Public Theater Emerging Writers program, right? So stuff like this happens all the time on a very regular basis to me in large and small optics. Sometimes to make me feel like I'm the only one who can see it and is crazy, sometimes larger if it's able to appropriately discredit me. So, at this cafe in 30th Street Station in the summer of 2016, I was therefore reasonably suspicious that this was a setup for the reasons I've described. And because it seems very implausible that Winter Miller, the Public Theater Emerging Writers screening panel is sitting over their keyboard waiting to press send for my rejection email when the person having a live staged interaction with me sends them the go-ahead, I'm now wondering if there's a hacker or a spyware of some kind that is intercepting my emails and releasing them so that I receive them at a specific time to fuck with me mentally. And I've also wondered if Scientology or some kind of even government MK Ultra style program is inside of Google and able to do this without worrying about the law. Maybe someone could be doing this illegally inside of Google. Maybe I've been placed on some watch list fraudulently that says like, oh, let's just make her go insane so that she like has some public outburst and we can like profile her as a potentially violent criminal and like sell our, you know, behavioral prediction software to the government. I don't know, you know, like Henry Murray did with his Harvard experiment involving the Unabomber or whatever. I don't know. But I'm wondering how they're able to pull off this sophisticated social engineering email hybrid that they're doing against me. So those are just some thoughts I've had. Google has a weird history involved in my Black Ops as well, which is a topic for another video. But if any specialists in, you know, multi-interest Black Ops, social engineering, and illegal hacking operations could maybe comment on this, that would be incredibly, incredibly helpful.